For years, my wealthy mother-in-law, Susan, treated me like a servant. I finally had enough and devised a meticulous plan to retaliate. Daniel's voice sliced through the clinking of plates like a sharp blade. "Alina, get me some coffee now." I froze, my hands submerged in soapy water. "I'm washing dishes," I replied softly. "What?" His tone was sharp, impatient. "Stop that and get the coffee now. Can't you follow basic orders?" Before I could respond, another voice chimed in. "Make it quick and add some sugar." Susan, my mother-in-law, called from the living room, nibbling on a piece of cake she'd taken from the fridge, her eyes glinting with spite. I glanced at the pile of dishes. "There's a lot to do," I said. "Leave them for later," Daniel snapped, his words dripping with venom. "Do what we tell you, worthless wife." I was Alina, a 28-year-old working mother whose life felt like a prison. Married at 23, I had dreamed of love and partnership, but instead, I was trapped under Daniel's control and Susan's tyranny. Our 4-year-old son was my only source of joy in this bleak existence. We lived in Daniel's family home, a choice forced upon me under the guise of caring for Susan after my father-in-law's death. At first, I pitied her supposed grief, but it soon became clear I was merely a pawn in her cruel game of household domination. Cooking, cleaning, and working weren't enough. My efforts were mocked, my meals either ignored or harshly criticized. "This pasta is pathetic," Susan would sneer. "Make it properly next time." "I'm busy and can only manage quick dishes," I'd say, keeping my tone even. "Backtalk from my daughter-in-law?" "Disgraceful," she'd retort. "Cook it right." "Why don't you cook? You're skilled in the kitchen, aren't you?" I dared to snap back once, instantly regretting it. "Why would I do chores with you here?" she replied icily, dismissing me. Their cruelty escalated over time, shifting from sharp words to a cold, isolating silence. They began to ignore me completely, as if I were invisible. 5 years dragged on in this oppressive atmosphere. Daniel and I turned 35 and 33 respectively. Susan, now 63, seemed to revel in my misery. One evening, exhausted from work, a stark realization hit me. They saw me as nothing. I was a ghost in my own home, acknowledged only by my son's tender voice. The thought of losing even that small light was unbearable. I started cooking dinner to lift my spirits. Spicy tofu, fried chicken, and a pork and pepper stir-fry, hoping to restore some normalcy. "Get me the ketchup," Daniel barked, breaking his long silence. "Here you go," I said, handing it over. His first words to me in months were a command, not a kindness. It was the breaking point. Susan's voice cut in. "Scrub the bathroom." "Now?" I asked, stunned. "Yes, now," she spat, her tone venomous. I snapped, my patience gone. "Don't talk like that during dinner. It's vile, just like your attitude." The argument exploded. Daniel demanded I apologize to his mother, but I stood my ground, refusing for the first time in years. The tension reached a boiling point, and a decision solidified within me. I had to escape this toxic cage, for myself and my son. That night, I downloaded divorce papers, filled them out, and slammed them in front of Daniel. His shock was palpable, but I felt only cold resolve. "I'm filing these," I declared, my voice unwavering. In the days that followed, icy glares and biting comments filled the air, but amidst the chaos, I found a flicker of freedom. One evening, Susan sneered at the meal I served. "This is food? A child could do better?" I focused on my son's happy face. "Eat up, sweetie. I made your favorite." Daniel scoffed. "What a performance, playing the perfect mom. I'm just trying to make a nice meal for our son," I said, holding back my anger. Susan snorted. "You're nothing but a burden here." The tension was suffocating. Daniel's taunts grew sharper. "How will you survive after the divorce? You can't even manage a house." I met his gaze. "I've been supporting this family for years. I'll manage just fine." His smirk faltered, a hint of worry creeping in. Susan jumped in. "Ridiculous. You need us more than we need you." I muttered to myself. "Without my income, this house would collapse." Susan scoffed. "We'd get by without your pathetic money." But Daniel's silence betrayed the truth. They'd be financially ruined without me. Their behavior worsened over the next few days. Susan alternated between fake sweetness and vicious insults when I didn't budge. Daniel seemed lost, his bravado crumbling as his dependence on me became undeniable. One afternoon, I overheard a chilling conversation. "She can't leave us like this," Daniel growled. "We need her money." Susan's voice was cold and calculating. "Don't worry. I have a plan to make her life so miserable she'll stay." Their true intentions laid bare. They cared only about control and money, not me or our son. That night, a plan formed in my mind. I wouldn't fight with words or petty arguments. I'd hit them where it hurt most, their pride and their wallet. The next morning, I contacted a sharp, no-nonsense lawyer named Laura. "I want a divorce, and I want to ensure they get nothing more than they deserve," I told her. She nodded, her eyes gleaming with purpose. "You're the breadwinner, right? We'll use that." My determination grew stronger. I began documenting everything, their insults, financial manipulation, every slight. It was time to make them face the consequences. As I built my case, I felt empowered, finally in control of my destiny. The shadows of their scorn began to lift, revealing a new dawn. As the divorce proceedings loomed, the house grew more hostile, but my fear faded, replaced by steely resolve. One evening, Susan tried a new tactic. "Alina, darling, let's put this ugliness behind us. We're family." I met her gaze unflinchingly. "Family doesn't treat each other the way you've treated me," Daniel scoffed. "Playing the victim now? You're not so innocent." "I'm not playing anything," I said calmly. "I'm just done being your punching bag." The conversation turned to money, as it always did. "You think you can take our son and leave? How will you provide for him?" Daniel challenged. I smiled faintly. "I've been providing for this family for years. I'll manage." Susan sneered. "You're nothing without us. You'll come begging." Her words no longer stung. I knew my worth. The next day, I met with Laura again. "We'll highlight their reliance on your income," she said. "It'll be key for custody and asset division." I nodded, feeling justified. The law was on my side, and I was ready to fight. At home, the tension boiled over. Susan's attempts to undermine me grew desperate. "You think you're clever?" she hissed one night. "You're just a heartless woman abandoning her family." I looked her in the eye. "No, I'm a woman finally standing up for herself." Daniel's anger flared. "You'll regret this. You can't survive without me." His threats meant nothing. I was done being cowed. As the court date neared, I gathered bank statements, recorded their cruel words, and collected proof of their neglect. One day, as I organized my files, my son approached me. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" he asked, his voice small. I hugged him tightly. "Yes, sweetie. We're going to be fine. We're leaving this place for a happy new life, just you and me." His grip tightened, and I knew I was doing the right thing. For him. For us. The court date arrived, a mix of dread and determination swirling within me. In the courtroom, Daniel's lawyer painted him as a devoted husband and father, wronged by my accusations. Susan played the victimized mother-in-law, betrayed by her ungrateful daughter-in-law. But their act was flimsy, their lies transparent. When my turn came, I spoke with clarity. "I've been the sole provider for years. My husband's joblessness and his mother's manipulation have been relentless sources of pain." Daniel interrupted, his voice tinged with fake hurt. "Alina, how can you say this? I've always supported you." I faced him, unwavering. "Support is action, Daniel, not words. Your actions have shown only selfishness and cruelty." The judge listened intently as I presented my evidence, financial records, recordings of their abuse, and neighbor testimonies. The truth was undeniable. As the evidence mounted, Daniel's facade crumbled. Susan's composure shattered, her mask of innocence slipping. Then came the bombshell. Laura presented photos and documents proving Daniel's infidelity and Susan's secret affair with Mr. Thornton, a wealthy neighbor. Gasps filled the courtroom as compromising images were displayed. Their deception was laid bare. Daniel's face paled, his eyes wide with shock. Susan's expression twisted into fury, her hands shaking. You invaded our privacy!" she shrieked. I met her gaze, my voice firm. "No, I exposed the truth you both hid for too long." The courtroom buzzed as the judge called for order. Their credibility was in tatters. The verdict was clear. I was granted full custody of our son and a fair share of assets. Daniel and Susan were left with nothing but their ruined reputations. As I left the courtroom, a weight lifted from my shoulders. Years of deceit and abuse were over. I had faced my tormentors and won. Outside, my son ran into my arms, his face alight with joy. "We did it, Mom," he cried. "Yes, we did," I said, holding him close. "We're free now." This wasn't just a victory, it was a triumph for everyone who'd ever felt belittled or powerless. It was a new beginning, filled with hope and promise. The aftermath was chaotic. The news of Daniel and Susan's deceit spread through our community, destroying their veneer of respectability. I focused on rebuilding my life with my son, savoring the satisfaction of their downfall. One evening, Mrs. Thornton, Mr. Thornton's wife, visited me, her eyes brimming with tears. "Alina, I heard everything. I can't believe what Susan did," she said, her voice breaking. Over tea, she poured out her pain. "I trusted her as a friend, and she betrayed me with my husband." I listened, offering comfort. Susan's actions had caused more harm than she'd intended. The next day, I ran into Daniel in town. He was a shadow of himself, his arrogance gone. "Alina, can we talk?" he whispered. "What's left to say, Daniel?" I asked, facing him. "I'm sorry," he mumbled, avoiding my eyes. "I didn't realize how much I depended on you." His belated apology marked a shift. He'd lost everything, his pride, his home, his family, and was forced to face his failures. Susan faced worse. Her affair with Mr. Thornton not only ruined her reputation, but also led to legal trouble. Mrs. Thornton filed for divorce and sued her for alienation of affection. Neighbors whispered about Susan's downfall, painting her as an outcast. I saw her at the store one day rushing through the aisles, eyes downcast. Our gazes met briefly, and I saw the hatred and defeat in her eyes. "You ruined me," she hissed as she passed. I watched her go, whispering, "No, Susan, you ruined yourself." Justice had prevailed. Their lies, manipulation, and abuse had come full circle. They were left to face the wreckage of their deceit. As I watched them suffer the consequences, I felt calm satisfaction. Not just in their downfall, but in my newfound freedom. The true victory was living a life of peace and strength, unshackled from their toxicity. My focus returned to my son and our future. We were free from their prison, ready to live the life I'd always dreamed of. This wasn't just a tale of retribution. It was a story of liberation, a testament to my resilience. I had seized control of my fate, broken free from their tyranny, and stepped into a world full of possibility. I was no longer their victim. I was free, and the future was mine to shape.